In this video, we'll be guiding you through some of the key steps to installing the HPS Performance Silicone Heater Hose Kit for the BMW E46 3 Series. First thing we'll need to do is remove the cabin air filter housing. The only special tool you need for this is a T30 Torx bit. Next, we'll remove the air intake system from the car. We'll remove the airbox, disconnect the F connector, and remove the upper air intake hose from the vehicle. We'll also need to remove the plastic shield between the brake booster and the engine bay. Next, we'll move under the car and we're going to drain the coolant. You're going to notice that there's two drain cocks, one located at the radiator and one located right below the expansion tank. You'll want to loosen the one that's on the expansion tank. You can use a flathead screwdriver to loosen it, and once all the coolant's been drained out, you can reinstall the drain cock. So here's a diagram showing the four hoses that are in the heater circuit. There's one hose going from the engine to the mix valve, one from the mix valve to the heater core, another hose from the heater core to the expansion tank, and one from the expansion tank back to the engine. So on these hoses, there's actually a mix of quick connects and clamped connections. In this diagram, it'll show you all the different spots where the different connections are located. So to disconnect the quick connect fittings, you'll use a small flathead screwdriver to pull back on the spring clip. From there, you can pull the fitting off straight back off the nipple. If you have any trouble getting them off, just simply jiggle the fitting up and down until it does come off. Try not to put any twisting or bending motions into it, or it can cause some stress onto the nipple and possibly cause it to break. The most difficult hose to get to in this installation is located at the back of the engine, right beneath the intake manifold. You might have to do this one entirely by feel. We recommend uninstalling this hose last after you remove the two hoses on the heater core. In order to install the new hoses, we'll need to salvage the quick connect fittings from the original hoses. Since the fittings can only install one way, we recommend marking the orientation of the fitting in relation to the hose. That way we can easily install the fitting onto the new hose without any guesswork. Once we're happy with the way the fitting is installed onto the hose, we can install a hose clamp size 20 to 32 and fasten that to 15 inch-pounds. Once all the fittings have been transferred from the original hoses to the new hoses, we'll go ahead and reinstall the hose that's under the intake manifold first, since it's the hardest one to get to. Once we have that hose installed, the remaining hoses can be installed in any order. Next, we'll need to refill and bleed the coolant system. First, we'll loosen the coolant bleed screw from the upper hose, and then we'll install a funnel and fill the expansion tank up with Premix coolant. For our installation, we used about 1 gallon of this Premix coolant, but just to be safe, I recommend having 2 gallons ready to go just in case. Next, we'll move inside the car. We'll put the key in the ignition at the on position, don't start the engine, and then we'll set the climate control to the hottest setting and set the fan at the lowest speed. From there, we'll continue filling up the expansion tank with more coolant until we stop seeing any bubbles and coolant starts pouring out of the coolant bleed screw. Once coolant starts coming out of the bleed screw, we can go ahead and tighten it back up. Next, we'll check the coolant level in the expansion tank. If it's at the appropriate level, we can go ahead and put the cap back on. Next, we'll check for leaks, and if it's all good, we can go ahead and reinstall the intake and the filter housing, and then we're good to go.